Okay, here's a video that literally nobody asked for. But when I say I'm gonna rank and review every coaster, I mean every coaster. I'm gonna rank every coaster and give them a review. Every drop and every hill, every launch and every loop. Rate it 1 to 10 and then we'll do it all again. Gonna rank and review every coaster. Every coaster. What's going on, everybody? My name is Mario. This is a channel all about amusement park type stuff, but mostly coasters. And today in my never-ending journey to rank and review every single coaster I have ever been on, we're going to be talking about a bunch of Misfit, family, and kiddie coasters. Now, Woodstock Express at California's Great America was the coaster slated for the next review, but there's simply not enough to say about this coaster on its own, so I gathered a bunch of other kiddie and small family coasters to rank and review along with it. This is kind of just a let's get them out of the way quickly kind of video. We're going to be talking about 11 coasters today, going from worst to best, but real quick before we do that, I wanted to say thank you to anybody that subscribed to this channel. You guys are awesome. And to anybody that's not subscribed, you better subscribe or you'll be turned into a kiddie coaster. And you'll have to deal with annoying amusement park children for the rest of your life. So you better subscribe. But without any further ado, let's review. Starting off at the bottom of our list, we have Timberline Twister at Knott's Berry Farm. This is a coaster manufactured by Bradley & Kay, the only Bradley & Kay coaster I have been on, and I'm not a big fan. This coaster is located in the very nice looking Camp Snoopy area of Knott's Berry Farm, with a layout that consists of small turns and small airtime hills. These airtime hills are very sharply profiled, leading to an aggressive ride experience, but that may be too intense for smaller guests. And for full-grown adults riding a kiddie coaster just to boost their coaster count, this ride is uncomfortably small and the aggressive transitions don't mix that well with being oversized for the ride. Overall, I'd give Timberline Twister a 2 out of 10. I don't think it's a great ride for kids or adults, so it ranks pretty low on my list at 219 out of the 229 coasters I've been on. Next, we're going international to Croatia for Mine Train Coaster at Fun Spot Biograd. I said fun spot when I meant fun park. I've been in Florida for too long already. This is an SBF Visa Mine Train coaster, which, if that doesn't sound familiar, that's because there are none currently operating in the United States, which to me personally is surprising because they're a great small and probably cheap kiddie coaster, perfect for a family fun center or any kiddie area in a park. This is probably the smallest and least interesting coaster on this list, featuring a simple figure 8 layout with no real drops. It does feature a relatively long ride cycle, however. I think when I rode it went around the track about 5+ times. This really is a perfect starter coaster. However, I only give it a 2.5 out of 10. That all puts it at number 216 on the list. But again, not a bad ride, just not for me. Next up, we have Kiddie Coaster at Fun Spot Kissimme. Kiddie Coaster is manufactured by E&F Myler, and I already did an entire video on E&F Myler kiddie coasters, but I rode this and the next coaster on the list after making that video, so it's in this one instead. This particular E&F Myler is an 11.5-foot single helix center CCW model, whatever the heck that means. It's essentially just a layout that consists of a small drop, a helix, and some small bunny hills. And if you know me, I love E&F Mylers, but this one in particular is very tame compared to the others, which does make it a better kiddie coaster, but not the best ride experience for myself. Overall, I give it about a 2.5 out of 10, and I rank it at number 214. Next up, we have Serpent just down the road at Fun Spot Orlando, another E&F Myler. This time it is an oval model, and the layout is just a drop and 3 hills. While this is a shorter layout than Kiddie Coaster, I do prefer the larger hills to the longer layout, but this is another tame and thus accessible kiddie coaster. So good for the kids, not so much for me. With all that being said, this gets another 2.5 out of 10 and ranks at number 213. Heading back to the West Coast, we have Coastersaurus at Legoland, California, which is a Gerstlauer Jr. coaster, which is another model that never really took off, with only 4 being built. This layout only consists of a drop, a helix, and some turns, but again, you do get 2 cycles, which is nice. Now, this coaster is even more tame than the last two coasters that we talked about, but what this coaster has to make up for that is multiple Lego dinosaurs, including one in the middle of a pond, as well as a nice lush setting with pretty landscaping that contribute to an enjoyable, laid-back ride experience. However, one of the negative aspects for this ride is that it can get really long waits. This ride is located at a popular park where kids are the target demographic. You only have one train that carries 16 people per ride, and doing the 2 circuits per ride does also slow down the wait. So be prepared to wait a little while for this coaster if you do want to get on it. This coaster gets another 2.5 out of 10, but it ranks a bit higher at 206. Next up is Little Dipper, that was located at Scandia in Ontario, California, but unfortunately both the coaster and this park closed in 2019. This coaster was manufactured by Molina & Sons with a layout that consisted of small hills that progressively descended until you arrived back at the station. This coaster delivered wacky airtime that would typically be uncomfortable on other kiddie coasters, if not for the padded seating that make this one of the most comfortable coasters out there. I mean, it literally feels like you are sitting on a couch. Additionally, this attraction had great head choppers with screamers, supports overhead, and a fun little quirk with the top of the lift just randomly kinking to the left right before the drop. Didn't really affect the ride experience at all. It's just weird to see a lift that isn't perfectly straight. Overall, it was pretty fun for a kiddie coaster, earning it a 3.5 out of 10 and ranking it at number 201. Next up, we're heading to Northern California for Woodstock Express, and we're finally getting into something slightly more thrilling. Located at California's Great America, this ride was manufactured by Intamin, and this is one of Intamin's few kiddie coasters ever designed. Woodstock Express has a nice wooded setting and a decent layout. That layout consists of a long, drawn-out first drop with decent speed at the bottom, a turn into a helix which starts off slow but picks up speed as you get towards the end, and then a decently exciting turn and drop right before the station. Ultimately, though, it's still a kiddie coaster, so it gets a 3.5 out of 10 and ranks at 191. Next up, we have what is probably the most unique coaster in this video, Rewind Racers at Adventure City. And I'm honestly just proud that I said Rewind Racers correctly the first time. Try saying it 10 times fast, I guarantee you cannot do it. Rewind Racers, Rewind Racers, Rewind Racers, Rewind Racers, Rewind Racers. Anyway, this attraction is a Gerstlauer family shuttle coaster, and despite being a family ride, Rewind Racers goes forwards and backwards. The layout is nothing too crazy. You have some shallow drops, a helix, and some mild turns. The ride experience, however, is relatively forceless, which does make it nice and accessible for riders of all ages, but does obviously hold it back in my personal rankings. I give this coaster about a 4 out of 10, and I place it at number 182 on my list. Heading over to a state that is neglected as far as coasters are concerned, we have Patriot at Castles and Coasters, located in Arizona. This family coaster provides a surprisingly forceful ride. The layout is just turns and helixes, but you enter into some of the small turns so quickly that you do get some abrupt, unexpected laterals. Additionally, the last helix is so compact that even though you aren't traveling that fast, you do get a decent amount of positive G-forces, and you get a decently long ride experience by going around the track twice. One of the weirdest and probably most interesting things about this coaster is that there are no air gates in the station. So you do have railings showing people which rows to sit in, but there is nothing physically preventing guests from just stepping out in front of the train while it's moving. But random safety facts aside, this coaster gets a 4 out of 10 and ranks at number 181. Moving up the list, we have Flight of the Hippogriff, specifically the one located at Universal Studios Hollywood. Now, many people don't know this, but this coaster actually is not a clone. Despite being very similar to the coaster of the same name located at Universal's Islands of Adventure in Florida, this coaster is different. This one is manufactured by Mach instead of Vekoma, and the layouts are different despite the fact that they do still feel quite similar. But as far as this individual ride goes, right away, this coaster gets points for being in a great setting. You have the Hogwarts castle in the background, you have some nice trees and landscaping, and obviously who can forget about that cute buckbeak animatronic. But as far as the rest of the layout, there's pretty much just turns. But the one thing that I do really enjoy about this ride is that it does carry its speed relatively well, even if the speed itself is pretty low. Overall, it gets another 4 out of 10, ranking at number 170 on my list. Not too shabby. And last but not least, we're going to be talking about Comet at Waldameer. Manufactured by PTC, this is the only wooden coaster on our list, and the only family wooden coaster that I have ever been on. Without a doubt, the best thing about this ride is the buzz bar restraints. If you're unfamiliar with buzz bars, they are minimalist restraints that lock into a set position well above your lap. This allows for a very comfortable and roomy ride experience. I would love to experience stronger airtime than this family coaster with these buzz bar restraints just lifting me out of my seat, but as far as Comet goes, it only offers mild floater airtime at best, but when you do get it, it is incredibly fun. The layout is relatively repetitive with only turns and hills in between said turns. This is still significantly more fun than any of the other coasters in this video, so I give it a 5 out of 10 and I put it at number 150 on my list. And there you have it, we got a lot of random coasters off the list. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you have any thoughts on any of these coasters on the list. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe for more content like this, and tune in next time where I'll be talking about whatever this wheel lands on.